right, good morning, Iowa. Glad to be with you all today. My name is Matt Mars. I serve as the Regional Director for Send Network, which the Midwest region for us is the Dakotas over to Illinois. I live in Kansas City, and I drove up yesterday morning just to hang out with you guys. I was going to stand at the table. Chase Abner, who is our church planting leader for Send Network Iowa, he was supposed to be up here today, but he got sick last night. During the dinner, he slipped out. He texted me and said, I'm not feeling well. And this morning said, I just don't think I should infect everybody. So don't you appreciate Chase for so many reasons, his leadership in church planting, how he loves and serves your churches, but also he loves you enough to not get you sick. And so I'm glad he stayed away, which gives me the opportunity to be with you this morning and interview a couple of guys he had lined up, Steve and Nick. You saw them in the video there, but we want to give them the chance to share a little bit more of their story with you. So Steve, we'll start with you. You planted a campus of Cornerstone in Marshalltown in April, and this year you took that church autonomous, changed the name to Mosaic. So let's start with a little bit about how you got connected with church planting in Iowa, and then tell us about the name and the change to Mosaic.
So my wife and I were members at Cornerstone Church in Ames, and if you know Troy, you know the guys up there, you know the 1002 prayer is a big thing. And so I've been praying the 1002 prayer for other people, and you know how that goes after a little while of God kind of eventually said, no, I called you to this. And so that was really the beginning, that call towards ministry. Was going through kind of some transition, trying to figure that out. And like every good movie, you meet a sage with a beard. That was Chase in my life. And he helped me figure out what those next phases, that next step of life was going to be. And so kind of helped me walk through exploring ministry and eventually helped get me connected into church planting. So when we changed the name from Cornerstone Church, Marshalltown campus, not only was that a really long mouthful and an extremely long logo, but we wanted to get something that really represented the town that we were in. And so if you know anything about Marshalltown, what you know if you don't live there is probably not the positive stuff. And so it's a very broken, hard community. And so what we wanted to see, even in the logo that we have, it's a broken vase that's been put back together. And what we really see is in the church and the community is we want to see brokenness be redeemed. And so whether that's individually, whether that's in the city, and whether that's as a church, even when you think about it, we oftentimes use the language of a stained glass window. A stained glass window is made from multiple different shapes, sizes, and colors of pieces of glass in their brokenness, but in the hands of a master craftsman, something beautiful is made, and that's really what we want our church to be in Marshalltown.
That's awesome. Kevin gave a great challenge here to not give up, to not be afraid. What is something that sustains you in difficult times?
Yeah, I think my favorite story of that, we had a couple that was going through a pretty hard time in their marriage. There was some confession of some past sin from the husband. And the long story short of that is I got a call one day that she was putting all of his stuff into trash cans and was planning on lighting it on fire on the driveway. So went over with another one of the leaders from the church, and we just kind of walked through. We helped her move the stuff, but we didn't let her light it on fire. We did find a Joel Osteen book that we said, if you really need to burn something, go for this one. We walked through them with that. They went through a time of separation. We just loved both of them and that couple, helped to just give them some guidelines and what does it look like to walk forward in faith. And I remember sitting with her a couple weeks into this and asking, in 6 months, where do you hope to be? And she was like, I hope I can look at him. Okay, 6 months later, they were back together, stronger than ever, expecting baby number 3, had moved into a new house, and she's actually on our staff now, and he's on our short list of a future elder. And so to seeing what God has done in their lives, those are those stories that keep us going.
That's awesome. Nick, you planted Frontier, or you were sent by Frontier Church to plant Hope City Church just last year. Talk to us a little bit about how you got connected with church planting and about your call to plant in Clinton.
I first got connected with church planting I used to be in a metal band with a group of guys it was like being on a mission trip for 4 years, touring around, and we constantly were talking about trying to live a life that had movement, like the New Testament story is so full of going places and telling people about the gospel. And I just wanted to do that. And then I got connected with a church planting church called Redeemer Church in Cedar Falls, Cedar Rapids. And that was when I was really first exposed to the idea of church planting. And it just made sense. It just made sense with the basic Jesus life. And then we moved to Des Moines, my wife and I, and our one kid at the time. And we're a part of Frontier Church from the inception of it. And that was incredible. Seeing a church plant from the ground up, just the relational intimacy, the stripped downness. Like I think church planting, one of its main virtues is that it simplifies everything. Like it forces you to keep the main thing the main thing. And so I saw that and I was like, how could I do anything else? You know, discerning the call to ministry, church planting was on my mind as this has to be part of the wrestling process. Am I called to be a church planter? And then I wanted to move back home. Like those two things were joined in my mind. Like going back home to Clinton, Iowa, felt very much called to go back home to serve the city. I spent most of my life complaining. Clinton's probably a lot like Marshalltown in the sense that it's more known for its blue-collar depression than it is for, you know, like vibrant new life. And so I was like, maybe I should be part of the solution. And the main solution to me seemed obvious, like, let's plant a church there. So that was the short story of it all.
What's the story that kind of confirms your call? And you shared a great testimony of this marriage that was healed. Do you have something like that you hang on to when things get difficult?
Honestly, when Dan was preaching last night, I don't know if Dan's in here, but when Dan was preaching, one of the things he said is that pastoring is so full of emotional ups and downs. The need of Clinton is so far, this is probably true with every city, right? The need of my location and my context is so great. There's people that I constantly have conversations with about their marriages are train wrecks, or they, you know, were addicted to drugs and then they come to our church and they hear the gospel, and like, it's just staggering to me the amount of people that are like, this is amazing. You know, Jesus is amazing. The church that you're planting here is amazing. And I'm like, I need Christ. Like every single week that I get to preach the word and see the way that impacts people, that for me is like every week. It's just a reminder that the need here is so great. It keeps me in it. Like the keep on, like the charge from Kevin to like stick with it. Like it's worth it. I don't have one story necessarily. I could sit and talk for probably longer.
Well, guys, we appreciate so much what you're doing. Excited to see what God's been doing and excited to see what God is going to do. If you want to hear more about their story, these guys will be around today. If you'd like to talk more, stop by the booth there. I'll be hanging out there today if you want to talk more about church planting. If you have a call on your life, perhaps to explore that more. If your church would like to get more involved in church planting, if you'd like to partner with one of our plants, stop by the booth. We planted out of our church in Kansas City, a number of churches, but about 2 years ago, we launched out a church, and one of the co-planters, I asked him, I said, I can't remember how we first met. He said, it was 2014. I was at the Iowa Baptist Convention, and you handed me a pen. And he said, that was my first introduction to church planting. He went on to plant in Kansas City, but don't feel bad because yesterday I saw Adam Bailey, who left Kansas City to plant in Iowa, so we're even right now. It's even. But if you want to talk more, we have something better than pens. We have, as Kevin pointed out, the first ever Send Network Iowa tumbler. This is limited edition, first ever. And during the break, Tim Labinas is going to be signing these, and the value will only go up from there. So please stop by, grab a tumbler. Tim has his silver Sharpie on him, ready to go, and I expect to see a lot of these on eBay in the coming years. We're super excited about Send Network Iowa and what God is going to do. Thank you so much for your partnership.